Okay, so when you hear children's charity, what comes to mind? Safe homes, right? Happy kids, bright futures. You're probably not thinking about carbon accounting. But what if those two things are actually deeply connected? Today, we're going to look at how one organization, SOS Children's Villages Jordan, decided to measure its environmental impact. And, spoiler alert, what they found was a total surprise.
And right from the start, the organization put this powerful idea front and center. For them, protecting the planet isn't some side project. Nope, it's woven right into the fabric of their main mission. It's about making a promise to the very children they're looking after, to make sure the world they grow up in is one where they can actually thrive.
So to really get why this is such a big deal for them, this moral duty, let's take a quick look at what they actually do, day in, day out. All right, so SOS Children's Villages Jordan, they're a nonprofit, and they have one of the most important jobs on the planet, really. They provide loving, family-style homes for kids who don't have parental care. They're based in 3 cities in Jordan, and they offer the whole shebang: a safe home, education, healthcare, emotional support, and they stick with these kids all the way until they're 24, helping them become independent. It is a massive, and I mean massive, operation.
And that scale, that huge operation, brings us to the big question, right? What's the environmental cost of all that amazing, critical care? I mean, how do you even start to calculate the carbon footprint of hope?
Well, turns out you start with a global standard. They used something called the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. You can just think of it as the official rule book for counting carbon. And the reason this thing is so powerful is that it slices up an organization's footprint into 3 different buckets, or scopes, so you can see the entire picture.
Okay, let's break this down really quick because it's super important. Scope 1, that's your direct stuff. The fuel you're burning in your own vans, right? Easy enough. Scope 2 is the emissions from the energy you buy, so the power plant that's making the electricity to light up your buildings. And then there's Scope 3. Scope 3. That's everything else. It's the emissions from your supply chain, from business travel, even from your employees driving to work. It is the big, messy, super complicated part.
So, with this 3-scope framework in hand, the team in Jordan started digging into their numbers for 2023. They were basically on a hunt for their climate hotspots, the biggest culprits behind their emissions.
So, what do you think they found? Where did that biggest impact lie? Was it the electricity keeping the village lights on? The fuel for their buses, maybe? The answer was not what anyone expected.
Get a load of this. Over 80%, 80, of their entire carbon footprint came from Scope 3. Just wow. It wasn't the fuel they were burning themselves. It wasn't the power they were buying. It was all that other indirect stuff. For any organization, that is a massive, massive revelation. So here's the kicker. The real problem wasn't where you'd think it would be. It wasn't as simple as just, turn off the lights. I mean, that helps, of course. But the overwhelming majority of their impact was hidden, tucked away in their supply chain and daily routines in ways they just hadn't seen before. And this chart breaks it down perfectly. So inside that enormous Scope 3 slice, 2 things just jump off the page. Business travel accounted for 43%, and employee commuting was right behind it at 38%. That's just wild. Think about it. How their staff got to work and traveled for work made up the lion's share of the charity's entire footprint. Waste was a distant third. But you know what? Finding this out didn't discourage them. Not at all. It actually gave them a laser-focused target. Now that they knew where the real problem areas were, they could build a real, concrete plan to actually fix them. And they didn't mess around. They set a seriously ambitious goal: a 22% cut in total emissions by 2026. This wasn't some fuzzy, we'll try our best kind of promise. It was a hard number, a measurable commitment. And here's the playbook for how they're going to do it. They're tackling each scope with smart, specific strategies. For their own vehicles, that's Scope 1, they're shooting for a 20% cut by switching the fleet over to electric and hybrid cars. For electricity, Scope 2, another 20% reduction by adding more solar panels. And for the big one, Scope 3, they're going after travel by boosting virtual meetings and getting people to carpool. It's like a multi-pronged attack on all their biggest climate culprits. But this whole plan, it goes way deeper than just cutting emissions. It's really about weaving sustainability right into the very DNA of how they care for these kids.
And hey, they weren't starting from zero either. Their solar panels that are already up and running are stopping about 170 tons of CO2 from hitting the atmosphere every single year. That is a fantastic head start.
And this roadmap just shows how big their vision is. We're talking way beyond just carbon here. They're planning to build greenhouses, set up rainwater harvesting, roll out full-scale recycling systems, and even switch to organic farming. They are literally building a greener, more self-sufficient world for the children to grow up in. Which, brings everything full circle, right back to their core mission. By doing all this, they're not just shrinking their carbon footprint, they're actively teaching the kids in their care how to be stewards of a greener tomorrow. They are turning a massive global challenge into an incredible hands-on life lesson. So, this whole journey by SOS Children's Villages Jordan really leaves us with a powerful question to think about. What happens when an organization whose entire purpose is the future of children decides to get serious about building a better planet for them too? It just goes to show, climate action isn't just for huge corporations or governments. It's a moral duty for absolutely anyone who cares about the next generation.